The Sundancer system's twin suns beamed cheerily upon the gathered spacecraft, like two affable aunts waving off a chaotic family reunion. Sleek, graceful vessels from 100 worlds and thrice as many corporations rubbed ionic hulls with one another, preening in the dazzling game day aperture ceremony. Among them, an ungainly patchwork of rivets and scrapyard debris belched azure contrails as it careened into the ceremonial holding pattern with all the elan of a newborn fawn. This, to the incredulity of all present, was the human race's inaugural flagship, the Divin Dynamo. "Nice of them to let a bunch of directionally challenged dirt munchers join the race," scoffed an Arcturan cloud jockey, eyeing the Dynamo's junkyard bulk with distaste. "I'd hate to see what their space program's budget allows for air cars." But within the Divin's haphazard corridors, a tight-knit cadre of 4 intrepid Earthers shrugged off such xenologic condescension. After all, they bore upon their hodgepodge flanks the boldest sponsorship known across 3 galaxies, the iconic blue and crimson emblazons of Bull Extreme Energy Drink. "Okay, Divineers," Captain Zig Pennington crackled over the comm. "Remember, no matter what transdimensional tunnel snakes or hyperspatial anomalies this racetrack throws our way, we push through. We've got the heart, the hustle, heck, and half the electrical grid of Greater Los Angeles powering our thrusters. So let's go add another hypergalactic trophy to the old Emerald City's mantle, what do you say?" Otter-like hoots of resolute enthusiasm echoed through the Dynamo's ductwork. All along the ship's blistered flanks, partially modulated shield arrays flickered incandescent, not from cutting-edge chronometric field repulsors, but by splicing a zillion odd overcharged car batteries together. Hey, it was cheap power. At that moment, a towering glimmergantuan of sleek Arcturan curves angled its metamorphic hull centimeters from their prow. The Dynamo shuddered with the displaced ion wakes as its pilots fought to maintain stability. "Well, well," a syrupy voice dripped over the broadband. "If it isn't the little mudball upstarts come to compete among the serious pilots. You barely qualify as sporting novelties, you—" But the Dynamo's dorsal cannons, tragically miscalibrated from patching together every surplus 20th century military bloatware system into their firing matrix, blazed a pyrotechnic final retort. Searing gouts of chromium and argon washed over the Arcturan craft's shimmer translucence as, with a noise like the entire universe's worth of flatulence, its structural integrity wavered into vapor. For a flicker of bemused silence, the Divini Dynamo hung alone amid billowing plasmic hulls, ionic backwash flickering across its quaint, asymmetrical ridges. Then, as one, the race fleet burst into rapturous applause, cheering on these plucky underdogs who'd already displayed the subtlety and restraint destined to make this marathon a spectacle for the ages. As the starter klaxon blared, the Divin Dynamo's patchwork of scavenged inertial dampeners damn near overloaded trying to keep its crew's internal organs from decorating the bulkheads. Still, Pennington's white-knuckled death grip on the manual thruster controls guided their improvised spacecraft through the first high-G bunny hop of acceleration. Within microseconds, the assembled race fleet was reduced to a technicolor hyperspatial blur careening across Sundancer's Peacock Nebulae. Ion trails and distorted Hawking Planck wavefronts crisscrossed in a dizzying mandala as cutting-edge gravitic modulators and quantum-coupled manifold injectors jockeyed for position. And straight through the coruscating maelstrom, the surprisingly aerodynamic kitchen sink chassis of the Divin Dynamo punched its way like a muscular moray navigating abstract waterways of superheated plasma. Arguillian deflector dishes sputtered and corroded against its flanks. Protonic shearing beams broke like surf over the reinforced nickel-iron prow, originally fabricated for puttering around Saturn's rings. At one juncture, their makeshift autopilot temporarily mistook an interstitial singularity for exit 39B on the Azarian hyperbyway, dipping them through a gravitic blood milkshake of subatomic particle soup before the manual override could winch them metaphysically upright. All throughout, Pennington and his stalwart crew rode the wildest tides of probability like delirious savants, guided by a sort of hyper-intuitive racing zen, just as it seemed their rattletrap assemblage of salvaged hardware would shudder apart from the stresses. Divinay's Central Gas X3 power core, courtesy surplus German engineering, released an apocalyptic belch of distilled excess. Vectored through its reclaimed solid rocket nozzles, The emerald-tinged shockwave flung the dynamo ahead of the extraterrestrial frontrunners in a single ballistic burst of pure, caffeinated adrenaline amplified to the quantum foam level. Vaulting the final singularity wormhole, the Divine Dynamo emerged in a blaze of gloriously asymmetric re-entry, its hull pockmarked and burn-streaked, but still riotously intact as it crossed the final finish line on XR5 to deafening cheers and raptures. Though they'd placed a respectable 11th, the true victory belonged to the unquenchable vitality of humanity that had triumphed through sheer moxie, daring-do, and just a touch of controlled cosmic pandemonium. From that day forward, the Divine Dynamo crew would be remembered not just as galactic ambassadors of a newly spatial Earth, but as heroes who personified the regenerative, improvisational resilience coded into every double helix of human DNA. The universe, it seemed, had just been issued its first trans-sentient energy drink, and the newfound rush was going to take some getting used to.